Listening to 100 Words or Less with Ray Harkins. Greetings one, greetings all. Welcome to the podcast in which we talk in depth to the people who are involved in independent music, whether it's punk, hardcore, indie rock, emo, whether they're running a record label, whether they're documenting it via photos or a zine, whatever, or they're just irrevocably changed by this awesome music scene and then they take their creative endeavors to many other places. I paint with a very broad brush here, so welcome to the show. Today, I am so thrilled to speak to Graeme McKinnon, the vocalist for, it's a tough describer of this particular band, but the vocalist of Homefront. Homefront is an awesome sort of like Depeche Mode meets like oi and post-punk, and they just have so much stuff going on, but it's very anthemic. It is very, I don't want to say aggressive because that makes it sound very in your face, but it is in your face. It's just, I love this band so much. Got a chance to see them probably about 2 years ago. And ever since then, I was just all in on the band. I was very disappointed I could not check them out when they came out to play with Coxbar here in the greater Los Angeles area. And they played like a record release show, but I unfortunately was traveling, couldn't make it happen. But Graeme is such a great hang because he has a very encyclopedic knowledge about this whole music scene, but then he deploys it through his creative energies. And here's a band that never meant to be anything besides just a fun project to do. And then now they have to play shows and like tour occasionally and do all these things. So they just released a new record called Watch It Die. It is well worth your time. Invest 27 minutes. I think that's how long the record is. Maybe 30 minutes. I can't remember, but invest that time. It's well worth it. Love the band, love the record. And so that's why Graeme is on the show. If you're looking for a place to support the show, first and foremost, interact with the advertisers on here. I'm not asking for money. I don't have a Patreon. All of those things do not exist for this particular show. But that is because I fund it via different ways. And one of them is by, like I said, being a patron of the advertisers. Check them out. They're well worth your time and money and energy and effort. The second thing you can do to support the show, simply just rate and review on the Apple Podcast page or leave a rating on Spotify. Share this on social media. I know every show says this. This is not unique, but it takes that one time you hear it to be like, you know what? I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to support this. I've been listening to the show for years for free. Besides, maybe fast forwarding over a few ads. Don't do that. Don't do that, okay? Anyways, I joke, but that is how you can support the show. Also, reach out, 100wordspodcast@gmail.com. I receive any and all feedback, pitches, whatever you got in your brain, guest ideas. Love to hear the feedback there. And let's talk about weekly recommendations. This is the part of the show where I recommend music that is either new to me or I just want to highlight. And I have a playlist with a link in the show notes for Apple Music and Spotify to be able to check out the plethora of music that's in there. And hopefully, if you ping pong around there, just toss it and shuffle, let stuff hit you and be like, wow, that's really good. That's interesting. And because after all, we're here to hopefully engage with new music. Today is a great release from a band called Boneflower. They're, if I'm not mistaken, Belgian, but they could be Swedish. I'm not 100% sure, but an incredible band. Definitely of the whole sort of mid-10s screamo revival. I don't know what you call it, but, very akin to Touche Amore, Pianos Become the Teeth, all that sort of stuff. But it has the European flair to it. They're a little more aggressive. I love this band so much. They put out a record, I want to say about maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And actually, it was right when the pandemic was starting. Armor, it was called. And I just fell in love with it. And I think what the band is doing is really, really compelling. It's melodic. It's aggressive. It's all of those things that you like out of traditional, quote unquote, I'm using big air quotes here, screamo. But this record is well worth your time. Came out on Death Wish over the summer. It's an incredible listen. So go check it out. and I put that record in the playlist, and you'll be able to listen to all of that stuff in there. So hopefully you find something you enjoy. And let's talk to Graeme from Homefront right now. I became aware of Homefront. It was probably like, I don't know, 2022-ish around there. But then it wasn't until the full length came out, 2023-ish, I think. But then truthfully, the song, and I know it is a staple of your sets, but like Overtime, that song where I was just like, I get it. Like, it's like the perfect package, in my opinion, of what you guys are doing. Because I got where you were pulling all the influences from, where it's like we're punk kids playing weird synth music with 80s influences, but like we're still a hardcore band too, so like deal with it. Anyways, and then I saw you played For the Children in LA like 2 some odd years ago, and that was the first time I saw you guys, and great show, what have you. But and I don't mean this in a offensive or pejorative way, but the Homefront definitely feels like a project that was never meant to be like a live thing. Like it was never meant to be what it is now. No. But correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like when we started it was during COVID. So it was like a lot of crazy COVID projects started popping up. Like I had a lot of pals that were in bands that were no longer doing stuff. And then next thing you know, they're coming up with their most like interesting music that they've done since I've been friends with them. You know what I mean? And so I think for us, like Clint and I, he was like staying with his folks that were like out of town. In like a small little town, like on the outskirts of Edmonton, and I was in town. My band wasn't doing anything at the time. His band had just recently broke up, and so he just kind of hit me up, and really it was just like, we don't even know what we have here. We don't even know what we're doing. We're just exploring. I thought the idea of doing something with like drum machines and synths like really interested me, but like again, we didn't have a model what we wanted to do. We just started like making songs up. Like he kind of asked me about it, and I was like, well, I have this kind of like Blitz riff going, but can you send me like a drum track? And like I'd never done any of this stuff before. Clint, on the other hand, has been in comes from a long history of electronic music. He's also like a punk kid who was in various hardcore bands when he was like growing up, because he's like an ass beater of a drummer. But when he did this, he was in a project called Shout Out 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 Out. They were an Edmonton group, and they were very like live instrumentation on top of electronic music. So there's they have like 4 or 5 different synths going. They have all these drum loops going, but they also have like 2 live drummers, and he was one of them. And then there was like all these live instruments on top of it. So when you watch them, you were like, I could never be in a synth. Like I could never do a project. Like, it's just like you're watching how complicated, like they literally like build like a fortress on stage, and it's like watching like the Memphis Belle like working or like, that movie Master and Commander, where they like show all the inner workings of the ship. Like you're watching it. It's like you see the cogs turning, and, like little guys coming out with pickaxes to hit the drums, and you're just watching, you're like, this is mental. It's like, from all of us who are from like really low IQ kind of punk, right. Seeing something like that, you're like, wow, this is great. It sounds like Tangerine Dream, like, all that kind of stuff. So when he asked me to do a project, it was like I guess because of COVID, in my mind, I knew that I was like, at that point, I was just going to our rehearsal space by myself in the rehearsal space by ourselves, and like just recording covers. Like I was just like, okay, maybe I'll figure out, like I would be like, oh, let's do a 2-second Red Cross song, or let's do some, Ivy Green, or some weird like European punk song. And just, I'm playing all the instruments, and I was just like, oh, okay, whatever. This is like staving up, like allowing me to be creative while everyone's kind of like with their own families or in their own houses or whatever, just like away. So then when he asked me, I was just like, oh, then it started going like, okay, well, if it's electronic, like, why not? Like, we could do something cool.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, it's funny because I had just mentioned like Blitz. But when I was a kid, I absolutely hated Second Empire Justice, like the second, like more synthy record. But my favorite song of all time up until that point, even as a kid, I loved when I first heard New Age by Blitz. It's just like so much stuff, like just, like you didn't even know what you were listening to as a kid. You know what I mean? And so as time has evolved, I've grown to kind of like love Second Empire Justice because I wanted more stuff like New Age. And so when you start digging in, I was able to, like, once I got a little older and started listening to different types of music and exploring different parts of the record store, you're able to like have a little perspective on like, wow, what they did was maybe just way ahead of its time. And for the microcosm of punk, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, during that same time, there would have been all that amazing UK pop or UK synth music going on. Like, you would have had Human League, OMD, like Flock of Seagulls, like all these groups in England also making what you can now look back on and be like, oh, this is so sick. But if you were a punk at the time, you were probably like, what is this shit?
This is so corny. Yeah.
Totally. When it wouldn't have, you'd be like, what the hell's up with his haircut? Meanwhile, you have like glue in your hair and stuff. And like,
yeah. Like these guys look like idiots.
These guys are fucking morons, and like, so it's just like, that kind of stuff, is funny to me because like it just kind of takes time, and the more music you listen to, the more you start exploring other realms. And that even the first song demo that we wrote, he had sent me like a drum loop from his drum machine, but he only sent it like a measure, so it's like like a 4 count. But like to me, I don't even understand what that means. So I'm like slicing each little bit and putting it into my like very primitive like recording software and playing my guitar to it and be like, okay, no, I think then it would go to this part. Then I'd, have to call Clint and be like, hey, can you give me a part with like the drums get a little bit more like, and then he'd be like, yeah. And then he was making all the stuff. And then when I had the bones of our first song, which was Flaw in the Design, which is the first song on the first EP, he was just like, yeah, this is great. We definitely need to explore this. And then from that, we got in touch with Jonah Falco, who from Career Suicide and Fucked Up fame. Now he's in a band called Jade Hairpins. And he really kind of, again, he was in London at the time, not able to do anything. And he was just like kind of massaged our creativity and kind of pushed us into developing it even more. It's really funny though, because I look back at some of those early demos that we sent him because we were just like testing stuff out.
Sure.
And there was even a song we sent him that was like, oh, this is going to be kind of like Hard Times by Run DMC. I remember that was like an idea in my mind. I'm like, oh, it's going to be sick. It's going to have this hard beat. And we wrote this tune and I thought it was great. We sent him, he was like, you sound like a coked out gym teacher screaming at the players at halftime, and then that was,
you're like, oh, okay, maybe you're missing that mark.
Then you're starting to see where the parameters are, but I've always been kind of someone who I just need to know where the edges are, and then I can just like, especially with my own, like, because I'm a man of limited talent, so I gotta fake it as much as I can to the best of those parameters that I have, and until I can break through into something else.
Yeah.
But it was just like, luckily Clint and Jonah, and then further along when we did when we got Paco to put the record out from La Vida, it was just like, these are all people that were like very nurturing to the process. And Clint was just like, he's a man of just like, he's got a very musical mind. He's been, so he definitely knows how to absorb technology and just like manipulate it into whatever. Whereas I'm just more just like rugged, just kind of like, okay, these chords work. this same chord progression's worked for me for 25 years. Like,
let's just keep using
maybe
it.
I'll put it in a different order.
Yeah.
And then, it's things like that. And, so it just kind of worked out. So the long story short, is just that when we were starting, we didn't even know what the hell we were doing. We didn't even know what it was.
You're right.
We wrote 10 songs and 4 were garbage and then 6 were good. And that
was the EP. Yeah.
And, from that, I think we just kind of built a little insular team at the time. And then it just kind of like started to go. And then when it started to become like a live thing, there was 2 instances that I can think of from back then. The first one would be when we made the video for Flaw in the Design. My partner, Kate, at the time, she's still my partner. Like, sure. Get out of here.
Yeah. See you later.
Yeah. No, Kate, she did she really helped us with our visual side, and she helped us find like a really cool space to like do these ideas that I had in my mind for like a video. And then we got our friend Steve Hope, who directed the video, and he shot it beautifully. And we kind of just like did all this stuff to make it kind of just like, okay, we got this part, but now like in my mind of like watching music videos, I'm like, there's always got to be kind of like a band, or else it's just going to be like, what is this,
Right.
So in my mind, it was like, okay, so we got our pals to be in the video, and like Clint in that first music video, he's the drummer, and Brandy, who's our bass player now, she's playing this like all these like modular synths, and Matt, who's the bass player in my band No Problem, he was playing bass, and then Ian, who was still, I think out of all of them, me and Ian are in the right positions.
Sure.
He's still the guitar player. So, but once we did that, I think it was just like getting the visuals of seeing what it was like to, see what it's like to have like a band, like the energy of 5 people with with the music. And that really kind of like maybe got my creative juices going even more on like what you could do with a live band, And the second instance would be a friend of ours named Morgan. She was putting on this show, in Vancouver, and she had heard the EP, and she was just like, okay, yes, this is really great. I really want you guys to play a show. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, sure. And it's opening up for Poison Ruin, like from Philadelphia. And I'm like, oh yeah, and like, I hadn't even really heard Poison Ruin at that time. And I started going in, I'm like, wow, this band is really, really great too. And, I was like, okay, yeah, we're in it. Since I said that we were good to go, I think I tried to cancel like that show maybe 25 times. I was alwaes running around, and I feel like, yeah, I don't know. Me and it's just not coming together, and it was just like the anxiety of playing in something that was, to me, was so not what I was used to, or like my comfort level. Like I didn't even know how to perform in a band like this. Like when I came out of the gates, I was just like, yeah, okay. Like came on the stage, I was just like so hyped up. I think I lost all the things that I had planned that I was going to do like within the first 15 seconds. And then it was just like, luckily, our live band at that time, which is still the same, which is Brandy and Ian from Rhythm of Cruelty, and Warren, our drummer, and Clint went back to his rightful spot of synths and drum machines. And they just kind of like, their energy just kind of like made it an easy thing for me to kind of just like latch on to. So in some ways, I never envisioned it as a live as a live band, but those people have like definitely made me like love this the different animal that it is. Like I do feel, especially at that time, the records and the live thing were they were different. Like I wanted it to be like a different vibe. So if you heard Overtime on a record, I wanted it live to be just even more, I guess, just like more when we were still experimenting. We didn't even have the live show when we recorded overtime. Like it was like, I think we played one show at that point. So it was just like, we were still trying to figure all that stuff out.
Let us talk about our friends at rockabilia.com for a multitude of reasons. One, they want to give you a discount. Use this promo code 100 words or less to get 10% off of your entire order. And you're staring down the barrel of the holidays right now. You need a way to shop for many people all in one place. And they sell you all high quality, officially licensed merch from hardcore, punk, indie rock, metal, mainstream rock, hip hop, whatever you got, they service you. And I love this company so much. They have a rewards program now. They are just dialed in and cooking, firing on all cylinders. It's so, so cool. So please go check out rockabilia.com and do your best to just finish all your holiday shopping. They ship it from the Midwest here in the United States of America, and it gets to you very fast. If you run into any issues, they have a great customer service line. And I can't say anything more besides, let's save you money. 100 words or less is the promo code, 10% off your first order. Order it up and enjoy. I think why people truthfully like gravitate towards you guys and come from obviously a lot of different worlds, whether it's punk, hardcore, or they just, find you guys because they like the music. But I think at the core of it is the fact that it's like you said, have an energetic show, but then it's also backed by an actual real band. Like I reflect on, it was like, looking at a band like, which doesn't sound like you guys at all, but like a band like The Faint, where it was like, sure, when they came out, everyone was just like, that's so crazy. How could you have live music? Like, it just like, even though it's like not that novel of an idea. And like you said, people have been doing it for years and years and years. But if you just like slightly recontextualize it, people are attracted to it. And that's exactly, you were doing a similar version of that, where it's like, okay, but I like the parallel paths that you're drawing of like, this is what we're like on record. This is what we're like live. And you're going to get two different experiences.
Oh, big time. And I also felt like, as a person who goes to shows like a lot, you would see that. Like, I remember, like an example would be like when I would see a lot of synth bands play live, and you listen to this music and you're so wrapped up in it, and then you go see it. It's just like two people awkwardly, trying to figure out their electronics, because it's still like they're also punks, and like playing in synth music,
right?
And so you're just like, oh, this is just like weird. But then you go home and listen to the record and you'll be like, well, what you guys made was great, so, or whatever those people made is great, so I can go home and enjoy the record. But live, it just
you're not there yet. Right.
Yeah. And there was a few bands that I don't want to name because I don't want to throw shade or anything, but when I would see them, I would be like, whoa, this is just like kind of boring to me. Like,
sure,
but the record gave me so much joy, so I started to recognize that there is a double, I guess, like there's a duality with it too, right? Rap music is funny in that way, because there's sometimes you'll see like hip hop artists, and they're just so dialed in with their sound that it's just killer.
Yep.
You can feel the electronics or the samples and everything coming through the PA, and it's coming out like so perfect. But when it doesn't happen, it's just such a weird disconnect, because you'll have this like really upfront vocal and the music is just not hitting, or else the other thing, which I'm never really a fan of, is when hip hop has like live instrumentation. There's times where it works, but sometimes you're just like, oh, I kind of just missed the like grime vibe to it. But then when you see it on a huge level, like for instance, I saw like Public Enemy like a year ago, and it was the first time I saw them with like a live drummer and a live bass player, and I was like, okay, it makes sense because it's like a huge festival, and I mean the DJ was awesome too. So it's just like, this is great, but it was just like, having that
they're pros,
part.
right? Yeah,
totally, right?
Yeah.
But when you get down to like our level or whatever, down to the minor leagues, you're just kind of seeing stuff. You're like, oh yeah, like, this is like, people still haven't quite figured that.
Totally. It's it's experimentation, especially when you're talking about, like you were saying, people are always going to, especially once they've attached themselves to a particular scene or whatever, where it's like, I'm a punk kid, I'm a hardcore kid. Like, even if you're doing things that are like not remotely connected to it. Like, if you were for whatever reason, like wearing a suit in front of me right now, which
Right.
by the way, you are, it looks really, really nice. But
I am in my suit. Yeah.
but like just that notion of like being attached to this thing and then taking your influences from there. And then, like you said, going beyond your abilities and being like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but like, this sounds cool. So like, let's continue to explore that. And only after time will you then feel comfortable enough to, like you said, take the step to a live show and then like literally go on tour, which is probably something you're just like, dude, I never thought I was going to do this with them.
No, that was mental. And to be honest, it's funny because I told you our first show was with Poison Ruin.
Yep.
And then our first tour was with Poison Ruin. So we're like very tied with those guys. They've definitely, not mentored us, but shepherded us into into all like that world, like Clint and I have toured. Actually, everyone in the band are touring musicians prior to this, but it's just like touring as Homefront. It all of us have to like learn how to. We're still like evolving. Like the sound is evolving live. Like what mixer works, like how, like who's gonna wear inner ear monitors, like our drummer has to listen to the drum machines and the metronomes the whole time. So it's like that's a different vibe than how we were before. And like, and Clint, who's calling the shots for all the songs, he's got to be able to hear all the electronics and make sure he's like quarterbacking everything, right? And for me, I'm still rocking just like a regular monitor.
Yeah.
Just like, I'm just like, fuck, whatever,
Yeah. This is just a different version of a punk band. It's fine.
Pretty much. So it's just like, you just kind of do your thing. But I find that there's things that I do really like. The more comfortable I get with this group, the more I think we're able, but for myself, I start to like, okay, what are those parameters? Like I told you before, can we expand it to a little bit? Can we get that? Like, could we actually make a song like Hard Times now by Run DMC and it actually would sound good? Whereas that first time we got laughed out of the building. So It's just like, like it's all about how, I guess how like confident you kind of get with your own sound. And I think it's funny that you mentioned Overtime because I thought you were going to say Nation for sure. I was
of course.
Oh, yeah, Nation was the one that you were going to. But when you said Overtime, I was like, wow, that's great because for me, when we wrote that song, it was very personal, and I didn't really know how that was going to translate live. And now when we play it, there's times I don't even have to like sing into a microphone.
Yeah.
Like people know the words and it's just like, that blows my mind. Like,
yeah,
it's just such a crazy.
It's special. Like, I mean, every band that exists in the DIY scene. And then like the moment that you have someone that sings along to your lyrics that you're not friends with, or is not, you're just like, who are you? Why do you know this stuff? And it's
no, totally.
Yeah. So I like that experience not only still hits you, but it hits you even harder because you're in a project and in a band that like ostensibly shouldn't exist in this environment of being like, here, I guess I'll give you the mic. Here you go. Like, all right.
That was the thing. I remember one of our first shows, and someone did a stage dive and I got a boot in the side of the head and I was like, okay, so now this is just like that. It was like knocked me right back into like, oh yeah, this is just like,
this is it.
How it always is. It's just
totally.
Like, I just have to now, I can't just like go off on a weird tangent. Like I have to kind of follow the metronome and stuff like that, like,
yeah,
I have to follow the drum machine because it's like, that's programmed.
Right. No.
So that kind of thing is different. But, like there was this hilarious show. Like we played in Portland. First time we played in Portland, it was such a fun show. It was like, we're in this venue and we go into this tune and like I stage dove like right early on and it was like, yeah, and someone threw me back on stage, but I fell right into the electronic bass and I unplugged everything. So it was like, we were just like, yeah, everyone's going. And it was just like, oh, and it's like, and yeah. And like when you're in like it's just a straight ahead punk band, you could just like somehow, even if all the PA went out, you still have the drums kind of going. You still have
Yeah, you figure it out, right?
You'll
Yeah,
figure it out. You'll be like, oh, whatever. You think of like Minor Threats having like the whole crowd sing the lyrics when the PA went out and
of
Another
course.
State of Mind. You're like, oh, that's got to happen all the time.
Yeah,
But in this, it's like you just kill the whole thing and the drummer could keep going. But he's like, what the fuck is happening?
totally.
And I just remember the whole venue was like, oh, it was like, okay, let's get this shit back. It was like having like, you know, like, I don't know if, like, it's like playing road hockey and the guy who's the goalie didn't get out in time when the car came and just smoked him.
Totally. Yeah, you obviously
pulling him
didn't.
out of the bushes.
Yeah,
We need our
obviously
goalie back.
Totally.
Goalie back.
Totally.
Goalie out car. He's now like imprinted in someone's like stucco, you know? So
Yeah.
just peeling him out, you know, get ready for the next play. So it was like, yeah, it's so funny sometimes. It's just like this running train that just like, as soon as it gets derailed, it's like, oh shit, now I remember what world I'm in, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's like instantly comes back to you, like, oh shit.
Yeah. It kind of putting the focus on you and your, you know, introduction to like punk and hardcore and stuff like that. Were you actually born and raised in Edmonton, or where'd you grow up?
Yeah, okay. I was born and raised, baby.
Do they call
780.
780? Do they call you an Edmontonian? What's the proper vernacular?
Well, they used to call us like supreme beings or whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, Edmontonian, Edmund Chuck. I've heard asshole.
Sure, of course.
You know, like City of Champs. We used to be called City of Champions till like a mayor we had was like that. No dice. We've been on a drought, winning cups. Like,
sure.
Let's just pull that away.
Sorry, Edmonton Oilers. Yeah, we're not doing this. Yeah,
we're not doing this. You guys are not champions. Everyone here is a loser.
Like, got it.
Great. But like, yeah, no, I did. And we were blessed because when we were so Edmonton, for those not geographically cognizant of where we are.
Sure.
We are like in northern Alberta. We're like one of the more northern capital cities in Canada. And it gets cold here big time. It's like winter, like seems like over 6 months of the year. But like the thing about where we're from is we had it's not really on the touring map, you know? So everything here has always been kind of like homegrown, digging your own ditch to make the stream run through, you know? And we were fortunate and blessed with having SNFU from our hometown. So when I was a young kid, like one of my very, very first shows was getting to see them. And this was just before, like this was one of the last shows of like a big venue. So I was like 10 or 11 and I went, and my older brother was like, you know, at the show, but he was like on acid. So he didn't want to like know who I was, you know, but like, watching SNFU was just such a light bulb moment for me, because you're seeing this band, they're so dialed in, and the singer was just like
legendary,
the craziest shit I've ever seen. Like he was like throwing shit in the crowd, like eggs and pies, and he was doing these huge jumps off the drum riser, and he would do these big split like David Lee Roth kicks, and he was just like a beast. And it was just like and the two guitars, like one would stop and the other one would go, and then they would be like in sync. And it was just like them playing off each other with a really great rhythm section. Like that was all really cool to watch. But to be honest, the thing that just grabbed me right away was like watching people stage dive. Like the only time I'd really seen moshing maybe at that time would have been like seeing the Smells Like Teen Spirit video, like I was like when that came out, you know, like I'd been somewhat aware of some of like punk and stuff from my brother's stuff, but I remember like seeing that video and being like, oh, this is cool.
What is this? Yeah, tell me more.
But then when you go to like a local gig and people are like ostensibly like flying off the side of a building, you're just like, this is fucking amazing. I need this. Yeah. And like you lose your keys, you lose everything that you came to the show with, you know, like your collar of your shirt is like torn open. You just like look like you look like the kid who like got electrocuted on the fence in Jurassic Park. Like that's what you look like when you leave the show. So it's like, it was just kind of like, so when you have that as like the people that you're like your forefathers, I guess, or like,
Sure.
and to me, they were as big as Green Day or Rancid or something like that. They were like, to me, they were like Bruce Springsteen's team. Like it was like no different. Like it was like everyone in the world knows who SNFU is in my mind. And then you actually leave your city and you're like, wait, no one knows who the local bands are. That you're like, of course they would know who Glory Stompers are. Like, of course you would know Blindside. Like, and everyone's like, no, never fucking heard of them. So it's just like that's part of about being in Edmonton, is that a lot of the stuff means so much to you because it's just like no one else. It's like no one else really got to experience it. SNFU, on the other hand, a lot of people got to experience because they toured like total animals for their whole career. So I think from being there, from being from this city, it just like really, I think, is in our DNA for like how we perform. Like most bands from Edmonton have like someone in the band is just kind of a little wild, like not normal. and then it's just like, and then you're just kind of trying to live up to that standard, like that's been placed and even if people here haven't made great music on record, there's a lot of times where you're like, wow, that band was awesome live though. Like that was we just didn't have really good studios or ways to capture a lot of this stuff.
Heavy music merchandise and records. That is what evilgreed.com does. And they do it so damn well. They have a specific point of view and they want to service the fans of that particular music genre so extremely well. First and foremost, they have a promo code specific for this show. Use the promo code HEAVY for 10% off of your first order. And I love this company so much. I've been working with them for the better part of 3 years, and that is because I am extremely passionate about what this company does. First off, they're based in Berlin, Germany. They ship worldwide. The shipping rates to us are very advantageous, and it gets to you very fast. On top of all that, it is independently run and operated. They have a bunch of punk and hardcore kids working there. So when they are packing your records, know that it's going from one person who probably likes a lot of the same bands as you. And truthfully, that is a very meaningful thing to have exist in the world. You're not just ordering from some faceless corporation organization. These are real human beings that are packing it for you and also stocking all of the great stuff. I don't care if you're into bands like Knocked Loose and Speed, or if you like Chelsea Wolf and Sun. They have all of it under that umbrella of heavy music, merchandise, and records. They also have exclusive colors of vinyl. They have so much cool stuff. So please do yourself a service and go to evilgreed.com and use the promo code HEAVY for 10% off your first order. So go. You won't lose. Appreciate that articulation of Edmonton, because I do think it's like I live in Southern California, and like when I was getting into punk, when I was, whatever, like early teens, it's like you're able to triangulate bands, obviously, based on where they're from. And like certain bands are inexorably linked to certain cities just because you're like, well, yeah, that's obviously where they're from. But then you're just like, oh, yes, like SNFU, like, yeah. And it's like, they are the band. Like, I could not, like, if you put me on the spot and just be like, hey, name 5 bands from Edmonton, I'd be able to name you guys now, but then you'd be like, yeah, SNFU. Like, that's all I could really.
Pretty much. Like, I mean, I think other than that, like in metal, there was a band called Disciples of Power that were, but like now there's a lot more stuff that's like kind of,
it's accessible now.
Accessible now. And then that's come out from Edmonton too. Like, I know like there was like some metalcore stuff, like Misery Signals had like half the band was from Edmonton and stuff. Members of Comeback Kid are from Edmonton. Like these are, Striker. Like there's metal bands that are pretty big from here. Revenge, if you're into, they have actually quite a big black metal scene that was big in the day. Of course, because it's snow. So it's like snow and psychos, like. Living in it.
Being indoors and metal, like that's obviously linked. Yeah.
And but like, it was just kind of like that was just, that's just kind of like our geography. But I 100% agree with you because like, like if I'm thinking about Chicago, I'm thinking about Naked Ray Gun and Effigies, and
Sure.
Boston, it's like Jerry's Kids, and like New York, it's like Agnostic Front, or BC Boys, or like or like the millions of amazing rap groups that come from there, like Eric B and Rakim. Like I'm thinking of that. If I think Miami, I'm not thinking of the beach. I'm thinking of Two Live Crew. Like it's just like,
Of course,
things
there's
like
certain
that.
things that are there's certain things that are just attached, and like I think what's obviously cool about not only where you're from, but just the location of certain cities just begs the fact that they're like, well, no one's going to help us, so we're going to create our own thing, because like you said, it's not a tourist stop. And like even
Totally.
using Florida, like you just mentioned, where it's like South Florida, obviously for 20 plus years was neglected. No one came from there. So it's like, and still until, death metal, hardcore bands like started to build it up from there. And then eventually people play there.
Well, it's totally. And like, I mean, the other thing that I think is really interesting that happens is your location becomes part of the sound. Like for me, like, I mean, I can think of like the hours of listening to Adolescence and listen to Agent Orange and like listen to DI, only to find out that they're all from the same place. And like when you get older, you're like, oh yeah, that early Social Distortion stuff. Oh, they're also from the same area, And it's just like, or like you think about San Francisco and you're like, yeah, like Dead Kennedys, all the stuff. And then like the later, like early 90s, like, like Lookout record stuff or whatever, all that. It's just, it sounds like the area. So with that in mind, when we started Homefront, I think we definitely wanted to, like, it wasn't even cognizant. It just like comes into our music. I remember one time I was walking to the jam space, and it was in winter, and the concrete was so cold, and I was wearing like my Doc Marten boots that I wear like all the time, and it was just, I started really noticing, because maybe it was just the time of the day or whatever, but it was making this like sound, and I was just like, oh yeah, like if I'm gonna do a synth project, this is when I kind of was thinking about this in the early days, with just me and Clint just messing around with the demos. I remember being like, I really want the drums to be very powerful. Like I want it to sound like, like even if we write a song that sounds like Pet Shop Boys, I want the drums to come in like it's, like a punk band, or like I want it to feel really powerful. You know what I mean? And that to me came from just like the sound of our city in the winter. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like, well, this is sometimes like the people here are great, but sometimes it's also unforgiving as you see, these poor guys like sleeping in tents in the snow in the river valley, and they're just like, fuck. And they, because our shelter system and everything in Edmonton is so fucked up. It's just like these people are kind of being forgotten, and you're kind of reminded of this like hardness all the time that just exists with living in like a northern city,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And I definitely felt like that was going to come through in the music in some way, shape, or form, and that just naturally happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which, like you said, yeah, is a part of your surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
I know you, like you mentioned before, you've been playing in bands for, many years and different iterations. I mean, I know Wednesday Night Heroes as one of them amongst many others. You started to tour like early 2000s and like start to experience some of that, or was that a little bit earlier?
Yeah, I would know. I think 90s. Well, we started Heroes in 97.
Okay.
And I think our first tour, like when we were actually like getting in the van and going from coast to coast, would have been like 2000.
Okay.
Around then. And so yeah.
Around that time, yeah. Did you take to touring right away, or was that something that like you had to grow accustomed to?
No, I loved it. I mean, to me it was just like so free. Like I felt so just like it's one of those things where it was just like gave me a purpose. Like every like planning a tour. Back then there was no like internet. Like there was internet, but it was like yeah, you just have to find this network of people who've already toured and try to go through the same people that did their shows and film them up and start figuring it out that way. And I remember like Maximum Rock and Roll used to have the Book Your Own Fucking Life, it was called. And it was like this magazine that had all these contacts in. And I'm sure some of those are so outdated and just like whatever. Oh, I know some of them were terrible too. Cause
of course,
yeah, some of the worst fucking shows ever. But the one thing I will say about that was that it gave me a sense of independence, but it also gave me a sense of like empowerment, because it was like I was 18 years old, 19 years old, figuring this out. My brother's 3 years older than me, and you know, our two pals, and we're just like fucking dumb kids just trying to make this happen. And it was just like, you know, getting to travel, like driving all across Canada, and then eventually getting down to the States. It was just such a cool thing to just like experience. And like, yeah, I remember getting like $10 a day. Like this was like later, like even the early days, you didn't get anything. So, but it was like, but it was just like, actually, it's funny you should say, like on those first tours, I remember even going across Canada, I'm still friends with some of those people that I met on that tour. And like, you know, in like 25, 30 years ago. And I'm still staying with them when I go to their place or just hanging out with them, or like they have families now and we're going to meet up, or they're coming to our shows. It's just like, that to me is something that you can't even really put into quantify it at all. It's just like, these are just forever lasting relationships that I cherish, and I wouldn't have had them if I had to just go, you know, get a job right out of there that wasn't just like a dead end job, or like, you know, had a career, or, you know, did something that like, it's just like, I highly suggest, you know what I heard this somewhere, and I'm not sure if it was like on a No Fear t-shirt or like a fucking like one of those weird like fitness apps that show up in your algorithm. But it was, I heard this adage that was just like, it's a privilege to suffer. And I feel like that is kind of what growing up is. It's like you're allowed to, because you can take the pain, and it's something that your privilege is that you're like asking for the pain. So you're going head on to just like see how you turn out on the other side. And I think that's something to me that I like. I remember seeing that just recently, and I was kind of like thinking about that, and like, touring is suffering, but it's
of course, yeah, it's the best suffering. Yeah,
totally. That's what I mean. It's like, you know, like when you finish running a marathon, or you finish doing like the most physically intensive thing, when you get onto the other side, it's just like, you're with your pals. You're just like, man,
yeah,
that was sick.
You're right.
You were like, that was hell. But
of
then
course,
on the other side, you look back and you're like, that was awesome.
Totally. You're like, I can't even remember the show that we played in front of 3 people that was ostensibly a practice, but it was fine. Yeah.
I was even like, thinking about this. Like I was talking with, like, we were just in Montreal. Yeah. We had a really great show. We actually was playing with Béton Armé, and it was for their record release. And I went out for breakfast with Dan from Béton Armé, and we were like shooting the shit and talking about like different cities. And I just kind of had this like buried deep down inside. I remember us playing like a crack den in like, we showed up to our show in I think it was in Denver, Colorado. We showed up to our show. They had never heard of us. There was no show. So we're like, great. We see these punk kids walking by. We're like, hey, you guys, they had like a case of brew. We're like, hey, you guys know where our party is? Cause like, we'll play your party. And these 2 kids with mohawks are like, yeah, sure. Let's go. They jump in the van.
Amazing.
They never met us. We just go to their house, and it's like the scariest house ever, you know? And it's like these 2 guys, we have like a little bass amp, and there's this other dude in there that's like Charles Manson or whatever, like the scariest looking dude. And so we set up our gear, we play the show in the kitchen to these 3 guys, and it, like all of a sudden I look over, my brother's taking his bass off. He's just like, yeah, this is over. And I kind of turn around, and like these three guys have all, since we've started playing, they all just started shooting up like right there, like ejecting trucks. And they were all like, by the time I looked back to see what's up and to turn back to the face the crowd,
Yeah.
they were all sleeping on the floor. I was like, okay,
like everyone's nodding out. We're out of here, guys. Yeah.
It's like, so you think about that and you're like, yeah, like it's funny, like, yeah, that was like, I buried that somehow. And then when I was talking with Dan, I just like kind of popped up. I was like, oh yeah, I remember this time in Denver. But it was just like, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, this is to most people, they'd be like, okay, I'm good. I'm going home.
Totally.
Like, fuck this. I guess for us, we were just like, yeah, whatever.
No, that's fine.
Just keep rolling, and
hopefully the next show's better. Yeah.
And like, I'm sure I'll remind this to my brother when I see him next, or talk to him on the phone, and we'll be fucking laughing our ass off. And like, because I was also thinking about just the setup too, because I was like probably 18 or 19, and like I didn't even really know how to travel. Like
you probably had a garbage bag or whatever.
Dude, it's funny enough. I did. I had a garbage bag, and I had like this quilt. Like little kid quilt, because I slept like at home. Sure. I slept in like this, like a single. It was like a captain's bed, so it was like a kid's bed. But I slept until I was like 18 covers. Or 19, and I had this like shitty like quilt from home, and I would just like lay it down. I had this like little battery powered alarm clock that I would just like sit next, because I was used to it from home,
Sure.
And it's just like, and I'm sleeping on the floor in this crack den with this like.
Totally.
Like this beautiful little
in a different country. Like it's not it's not a problem. It's
this
fine.
Guy, there was like literally this guy screaming in this other room at this like static on this TV, and I was like, this heaven.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like,
take me back. Yeah.
Like take me back there. I want him to eat my brain, please.
Absolutely. Like, sell my organs for more heroin or whatever.
Big time. So it's just like that kind of shit. It's just like, and like you wouldn't really get that experience if you just went to,
Yeah, you bet. I mean, like, you would have limited experience in regards to like, maybe you could be like, oh yeah, you backpack across Europe for a month or whatever. And it's like, yeah, right. there are experiences that you have with that, but there's something that is so difficult to connect in regards to the experience that people have touring in bands when you're just like, it's
and
like a pirate ship.
And even just like traveling with your pals, like even when you're a kid and you don't know how to do anything, it's kind of just awesome to do, because it's just like, like as long as everyone comes home and it's like they're alive and they're not like, they haven't experienced any like extreme horrors. Yeah, if they've just like gone through it and came up relatively unscathed, it's. My mom used to always say, like, what doesn't kill you just makes for a good story. So it's always like, that's always kind of like, always in the back of my mind when things are going absolutely sideways.
Absolutely. Considering, I mean, especially with Homefront, the fact that like there has been more, I'm going to use, for lack of a better term, like music industry things that are coming your direction from either larger tours or people being like, hey, were you working on new music? Like, that sort of stuff that you probably haven't experienced in other ways with previous projects. Like you said, you keep your circle tight. You only really work with people you obviously trust. Is that, I guess, your way through in regards to like, I guess, kind of existing alongside of the music industry, or what's your own personal balance in regards to that?
I feel that like for Clint and I, it's very important to be hands-on with a lot of things. There's parts of it that I don't really jive with that Clint jives with. Like he can, like, for instance, he's like, when we tour, like, I will do the operations kind of things, like making sure we have the van, making sure we have like a back line, like, getting flights, like organizing it, like getting our friends to drive us or whatever. Like it's all like I can do all the operational day-to-day stuff, but Clint will do all the stuff that I'm not the best at, which is like, keeping in touch with promoters, keeping in touch with like the agents, and like, keeping in touch with all this stuff, because as it's kind of like gone on, it just seems to like everything's just kind of growing. And sometimes when we wear too many hats, it's just kind of, it does definitely, make things a little bit more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that the more you kind of go along, you start to find that, like, a relationship with, like, people that you know are going to be there, people that you can count on, like Brandy and Ian and Warren, like the people in our band, and Kate, my partner, comes on tour with us, so she helps with, like, taking tons of photographs and, like, doing merch and stuff. And so, like, there's someone that we don't have to hire someone I don't know to, like, do merch. It's like, no, I get to travel with my partner, and she's, gets and is, like, a big part of the crew, or like when we're in recording, it's like, Jonah from, like, produces the stuff, and now we have, like, our other old pal Nick Kozub, who produced the Games of Power and the newest one. He, like, those are people that I'm just like, we work with, we trust, we know their tastes. The worst thing I find is really hard to try to bring our tastes and put it upon someone who doesn't have that reference.
Sure.
Like, they can, it's not trying to be like, you don't know what we're going for, man. Like, it's not like that. It's just more like, I have very specific ideas and references that maybe they would get right off the hop. Like, if I say, oh yeah, like, there's like this drum fill in this Last Resort song, that, or this, like, they would know what I'm talking about,
Totally.
And if we had a guy who was, like, a really good, like, slick producer, we'd have to then, like, show him and kind of, like, explain, like, just go the long way if they weren't already super familiar with it, right?
Yeah.
Or sometimes they would have their ideas that they would want to put upon us, and if it's not what we're like, I try to be as open-minded and free-spirited as it comes when it comes to making music, but sometimes I can be like, I don't know, I'm not sure that's how I'm hearing this song, like,
right. Yeah, this is not it. This is not what we're looking for.
But when I work with Jonah and I work with Nick, I know exactly when they're telling me this is not working. It's not working.
Yeah.
Like, I can trust them. And Paco's the same, like, from our label La Vida. He's got such good taste in music that, like, I feel that when we deliver him something, he doesn't want to hear a note until it's finished, until we can just give it to him, because he doesn't want to have any sort of, he doesn't want to have a sway in how it comes out, which is cool. But when it comes out, then he'll offer, you'll get the notes. You'll get the,
he'll let you know the unfiltered response.
Yeah, he is an unfiltered man. But it's like, because of that, we work really great together, because, like, I trust his taste.
Yeah. There's a level, there's a common, right. There's a common language that you're both working from, and that just makes it so much easier to work.
And to be honest, that's like everyone that's involved with Homefront. For me, it's just like taste and style are first and foremost.
Sure.
Well, I guess just like, are
you a good person, right?
Together?
Yeah.
Can we have laughs together? Like, that's like really, that's the most important. But after, like, human characteristics, if it's just down to like business, I would be like, okay, do we have the same taste, like same style? Is that like a thing? Or are we just like, it's not jiving because we're from two different worlds?
Yep. Totally. Totally. I have to ask, because I could completely understand not only why you guys did the tour, but why Matt Skiba asked you guys to do the tour. But, like, playing those sort of shows, like, is not for the faint of heart, even though it's an exciting opportunity, and you're like, hey, we're in front of a bunch of people, all that sort of stuff. And like, Alkaline Trio is clearly accommodating and they have good taste. But, like, were you were you nervous? Like, was it, did the tour go well? Like, how did you
I mean, it was okay. Well, first off, I will say that Alkaline Trio, them as people and their crew were, like, amazing.
That's
They're
awesome.
Such good people. Like, I have nothing but good things to say about how they treated us, about how they accommodated us. They were just like, everyone was just like so happy that we were there. And that, although I will say this, I will preface this little story. Our
Yep.
first show, we we're at the very first show it was in Nashville, and we get into the song Nation, so it's like the end of our set. This is our first show with Alkaline Trio. And the skins are going off. Like, this is like, okay, let's get, like, at that time, like, we hadn't really played live. So there was a lot of guys going like, okay, I will go see an Alkaline Trio show to see Homefront, because I'm not going to see them for who knows when.
Who knows,
like,
right.
At that time, like, right? At that time, we weren't even sure what was going to happen. So we go into Nation. There's some guy who's like hanging on to the like he's a diehard Alkaline Trio fan.
Sure.
He's not moving from the barricade, no matter how much Skin Dependence Day is going on behind him, you know?
Sure.
And so he throws this wild elbow and he hits some woman right in the face. And like, of course, the partner of the woman is maybe the toughest guy I've ever seen in my life at a show.
Sure.
He just starts housing this guy, you know, and there's like this brawl breaking out. And now security's jumping in, but this guy's now like fighting security. And there's like, I'm just like, oh my God. So it's just like out of control.
You're like, we didn't want to bring this in here. We're sorry.
So this is like our first show with Alkaline Trio. And we finished the song, like that was our last song. So we were like literally at the end. It was like there's this fucking Blazing Saddles style brawl going on in the crowd. We're like, just finished the song. We're like, okay, good night, guys. We walk off the stage and the Alkaline Trio guys are there, and their tour manager is like, hey, yeah, so that was a cool way to finish your set, you know, like it's, and then we're like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, so that guy was on your guest list. And I was like, oh God. He was cool. Like a friend of a friend. And like,
sure.
And I was like, oh, and he's like, so is this what we have to expect for the rest of the thing? So that made me laugh pretty good, because it was like, you know,
baptized by fire, right?
Yeah, you bring the hillbillies to the
formal dinner.
Party.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, guys. Yeah,
but it was but after that, like they were all just really great people. Like the crew again was super nice. That tour was pretty fun. It was like biggest shows that we'd played,
of course,
and it was just like the professional gig was just like, it was just such a wild thing, you know, like, oh, their barricade is like, you know,
right. This is a
far.
different, it's a different
jump
level.
Off the stage, I'm not getting back on unless I get a rascal scooter to drive me around. Like,
totally. I'll have to set up a signal flare. Yeah,
exactly. Like a zip line or something like that. It's like, you know, like it's just kind of those things. But it was really funny on that trip too, because we did like these Alkaline Trio shows, and then we finished with this fest in Richmond, and it was like our show with End It from Baltimore and Hank Wood from New York, and it was Vinyl Conflict, like the record store,
anniversary show.
Richmond. Yeah, it was our anniversary show, and it was the end of that. And honestly, it was such a fun way to go from that, and then you go back into kind of like quote unquote
your normal shows. Yeah, exactly.
And it was just like, it just felt, everything just was so amped up, and that was so cool. And because of that, like I still keep in touch with the guys from End It, and like, you know, Hank Wood, and like it's just like, it was just such a fun. Oh, and there was a Greek band, Chain Cult, played that as well. Like it was just a top to bottom cool show, and I just remember feeling like it. Like when we got home, we were like, well, we can do both. Like what's the big deal? You know?
Right. Yeah. We can travel in both worlds. If there's an opportunity there, we'll take it. So yeah.
Yeah. And if it's something that we can like get down with, like ethically, or if there's stuff that we can like feel like, you know, that we jive with, then we're down, you know,
right.
But it's just like, and again, if the people are cool and the people that we're traveling with are just like, treat us like normal human beings, and it's just like,
let's go.
You can't beat it.
Yeah. Well, I guess the last question I'll ask is in regards to when something like, you know, a band or a, you know, musical project or a piece of art you're putting out there, obviously once you put it out there, it's not yours anymore. And the concept of you like home front, like you were talking about, just being like, I don't even know if this is going to be a band. I don't know if we're going to tour. And like each step has been progressively, like, for lack of a better term, more serious. And you are clearly, a person that has a life outside of that and like an adult, and being able to like balance the creative life with the pull of being like, well, you could do the band full time, bro. Like, why don't you concentrate on this or whatever? How, do those, I guess, like two, beasts exist inside of your head where it's like, do we try to do this full time? Like, or
I mean, it's like one of those things that's just like, it's always there, right? Like,
sure.
Like I'm working right now, currently, I'm working at a TV station, and it's on the verge of laying everyone off. It's kind of always there. I mean, I have benefits of vacation time, and I get all this kind of stuff, and it allows me to do this other world, but sure. I'm always at the risk of losing that. But like, so sometimes I go like, well, even if I have a steady job, there's still a good chance that that's going to go away too. But at least the prospect of doing this full time with Homefront would be that, like, one, I would have to balance a lot of stuff to make it work. Mm-hmm. But also it would be like, I also look at it as like running a small business. Like,
totally,
like you had like a video store. This is like where you're going to hang out. And these are the things you have to do to keep this video store open. And, right. Like I definitely am past. I think it's just because I'm a little older. Like the ideas of doing like a 3-year tour or doing like
there's a 9 months out of the year.
Right. Like it's just, I just don't think it's in the cards for me. Like with the vehicle that I am currently moving in, like
right.
But I definitely think that like if cool opportunities are there and there's things that I know that will like grow the band, it's just like I never thought we'd go to Japan, like I never thought we would go play crazy festival shows in Spain or have like sold out shows like in like parts of Europe. Like I just never even like crossed my mind.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, who knows? Like we have a new record coming out. Maybe people will really jam on it, and we'll see where it goes from there. But I think just because we're very insular and we have like I said, like my partner is able to come with us, like all the band is like, we're all old time friends. I think it's just like, it's nice to have those conversations with everyone. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to be like, hey, we got home and we actually got a little bit more money than we did if we were working our job. So
that's great.
Cool too.
Totally.
But it's just like, it's also a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's just like these days, it's just kind of like, I look at how you would have to do that to be, and if you're going to run like a small business or do this in a way, then I just want to make sure that we're doing it fair and that we're doing it like responsibly, and that everyone that's involved is feels like they're part of it, like
mm-hmm.
Definitely don't want to just be like excluding everybody, like,
right.
I know sometimes I can be in my own head, but it's just like, I definitely want to make sure that everyone knows that this is like kind of like a big family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you just have to ask the question to yourself, whether or not you want to be a traveling t-shirt salesman or not.
That's totally what I think about this all the time. I'm like, oh yeah, but don't worry, we're gonna get hats. Like we got the bucket hat here, sitting on. So,
that's yeah. It's like when you boil certain things down to the simplest of terms, where you're just like, oh yeah, I guess I'm a traveling cotton salesperson.
Totally
sure.
I'm selling garments. Like
we'll be the soundtrack to selling our merch, and it's awesome. It's great.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, like I said, if things come up that are just like, make it that, like, because part of it too is like Clint and I just like really love being in the studio.
Yeah,
like we're also studio rats, so it's like we're there all the time, and It's just like,
wait, you're gonna pull us away from the studio? No, we're fine.
That's kind of sometimes how we feel. Like, I mean, like like this last record was like took like 3 years to make. So it's like,
Sure.
and we were working on it like so much
Constantly. Right.
so it's just like, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, who knows what the future holds as far as that is, but like, I'm pretty sure like, I think about some of these bands that are just like, yeah, blown up, that you're just like, wow, that is their job. Like, I know like High Vis, they're pretty close to that. That's all they're going to be doing.
Yeah.
And, I wish them all nothing but success, because they're great people, and things like that, so.
There you have it. That was Graeme from Homefront. And like I said, please listen to their new record that just came out called Watch It Die. It is well worth your time. Even if you're listening to this like 2 years from now and you're like, you know what? What's up with this Homefront band? Listen to that record. Okay. And hopefully they've put out more stuff since then, because they are a very good band. Also, shout out to Bailey, his publicist. She always brings me good ideas. And I love it when people, just think of the show and be like, hey, this would be a great idea. And I'm like, you know what? I agree with you wholeheartedly. Next week is a repeat guest, but there's a specific reason. So I've got Carl from Earth Crisis and his friend Jeremy Moeller. They are authors as well. They have written a young adult dystopian book series, and it's so good. It's called The Council of Crows. The title is Unraveling, but I'll talk more about it next week. It's a great conversation because we talk a lot about the creative process, working with partners, and also obviously pepper in a little bit of Earth Crisis here and there. But it was an incredibly sweet thing for Carl to just throw me a text and be like, hey, I would love to come on the show and talk about me being an author. I'm like, dude, you being an author? Had no idea. So that's what we're doing next week. We have Carl from Earth Crisis and Jeremy Moeller, his co-writing partner. So that's what we got next week. Until then, please be safe, everybody.